right, welcome to the Young Turks. Cenk Uygur and Kasparian with you guys. We got a great show ahead for you. Lots of breaking news on what's happening with the election. Yes, believe it or not, that's still gigantic news. And unfortunately, we've now reached the final stage where the Republicans are beginning to call for violence. So we'll have an update on that for you as well. But it's a big show today. The post game is free and available to everybody. We'll get to some more stories there, but we'll also do what JR and I did yesterday for the members, which was do like our personal opinions on things like, should you call Trump voters stupid? That's what we discussed last night. If you remember, you can check that out anytime you want. tyt.com/join to become a member. If you're on YouTube, you just hit the join button below. At the essentials level, you get all of our post games. So, but today's post game is free, and it leads into Unlock the Vault. So these are some old school videos that we're going to show you guys if we can hit some fundraising goals. It's really important that we get to $2 million by the end of this year. We're within striking distance, though behind, and I promise you that it'll make us much stronger and able to really, really succeed in 2021 and beyond. This is the last month of it, so your participation is critical. And we will unlock videos like, sorry Anna, but the race between Anna and I.
I know, because we're very original, so we always go back to that one.
Okay, all right, some salt on that video. Yeah. Arm wrestling, the first video we ever put up on YouTube, Ben and I fighting, us fighting with conservative callers. So tons of fun stuff. That's for after the post game. But let's get started on the show right now. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me show you the thermometer. Let's see where we are. tyt.com/go. And yes, thank you for commenting yesterday to not hit the table where my mic is. I just remembered that. So that's how we do the show together. All right, so you can see we're well short of 2 million at this point. Can I see 1685 by the next break? That would be amazing. We love you guys for it. Anna, go.
All right. The Supreme Court has rejected a lawsuit brought forth by GOP lawmakers who wanted to essentially overturn the results of the general election in the state of Pennsylvania. Now, this lawsuit was unlikely to be heard by the Supreme Court, and luckily this was the outcome. And it's also a foreshadowing moment for a lawsuit that's being filed in the Supreme Court by the state of Texas with similar ridiculous arguments, but let me give you the details on what this is. In a one-line unsigned order, the High Court left intact a decision from the Pennsylvania Supreme Court that tossed out a lawsuit led by Republican Congressman Mike Kelly, alleging a 2019 law that expanded mail-in voting in the state. By the way, that 2019 law passed in the state of Pennsylvania with bipartisan support, meaning Republican lawmakers in the state of Pennsylvania voted in favor of expanding mail-in ballots. Let me continue. Joined by 2 GOP candidates for federal and state office and 5 electors, Kelly asked Pennsylvania's highest court to throw out more than 2.5 million votes cast by mail in the state or direct the General Assembly to name its own slate of presidential electors, which the state Supreme Court said would disenfranchise 6.9 million Pennsylvanians who voted in the general election. So this is overall good news. Now, Donald Trump was probably thinking that by appointing 3 Supreme Court justices, they would always do his bidding. But it appears that in this case, they have rejected to take up this case. And again, the state of Texas is planning a similar suit with the Supreme Court. They did not file this suit with the lower courts. And what they're doing is specifically targeting key battleground states where Trump lost. And they're alleging that the results in those states need to be considered void. They shouldn't count. It's insane. So
okay, so first of all, let's just be super clear. This is great news. So one of the very last things that Trump's got in his arsenal is, as Anna pointed out, if I appointed someone, they should do whatever I say. He's never understood that that is not our form of government, that he is not king. Still to this moment, he doesn't get it. He is that stupid, let alone evil and all that stuff. But every time his attorney general doesn't break the law for him, he's like, I'm disappointed in my attorney general. I don't get it. Why didn't he just break the law for me? Because you're not king, you moron. So now he put 3 people on the Supreme Court. He's like, so obviously they'll just hand me the election. That's not how it works. You have to at least give them some fig leaf, some excuse, some evidence, some anything. And you have to do it within a pretense of the law. And he's like, I don't know, my pretense is I won. I said on Twitter I won, and I said on Twitter that Biden lost. So what does the Supreme Court just make me president again? So luckily the Supreme Court in this case was like, and held to the no. So they didn't even bother explaining if there was any dissents, meaning that there likely was not. And they didn't go into any of the details of the case. They're just like, no, they just swatted it away. So it's not completely over. I'm gonna get to that in a second. But the decision that they validated from the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court, I wanna read you just a very small portion of it. They said that Trump's team had, quote, a complete failure to act with due diligence in commencing their facial constitutional challenge. So that has a couple of components. One is fix your face. Okay, facial constitutional challenge means like you're not even giving us something that makes sense within the Constitution, within the Pennsylvania Constitution. So what is your facial constitutional challenge? And then the first part of it was complete failure to act with due diligence. That goes to what Anna was saying. You had a chance to object to this law for over a year because it was a law passed to expedite more mail-in voting. But some of you voted for it, and then you told your voters to participate in it, but only after you lost the election, you said, I don't know, man, I don't like mail-in voting. That's not how the legal process works, you clowns. So now even the Supreme Court agreeing, yes, they're clowns.
And what's even more absurd, if you can believe it, is the Texas lawsuit, which alleges the same thing, that it's unconstitutional to expand mail-in ballots, or mail-in voting, I should say. But the thing about Texas is that they are suing other states for their laws regarding the electoral process. So this was filed by Texas's Attorney General Ken Paxton, and again, as I mentioned, it's being filed directly to the Supreme Court. It's not even being brought to the lower courts to hear their decision on this. And by the way, the states of Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, which are the targets of this lawsuit, are turning around and saying, like, who are you, Texas, to decide what our election laws should be? And of course, these are states that Joe Biden won, which is exactly why the Attorney General in Texas wants to essentially determine that these election results from these particular states should be null and void. It's just, it is kind of miraculous how many Republican politicians throughout the country would immediately turn on our democracy, our democratic process, our Constitution, just to be pathetic loyalists to Donald Trump. It's really sad.
Okay, so I do want to give a little note of caution about the Texas case, and that's why I say this is not completely over. So the Supreme Court rejected this case, but this was a particularly bad case for very specific legal reasons, because the Supreme Court has recently ruled on a couple of cases saying we're not going to interfere with a state's interpretation of their own constitution and their own laws. And in this case, Pennsylvania's Supreme Court and their legislature originally agreed to all this because the legislature is the one that passed it. So it would overturn several Supreme Court precedents to have even entertained this case. That's why this was among the weakest cases in Pennsylvania. It was brought up by a Trump ally, not Trump himself. That's not very relevant, but just wanted to be clear about that. The Texas case is also by allies, obviously, it's from the state of Texas. The thing that they're gonna hang their hat on there is Bush v. Gore. They're gonna say, well, remember in 2000, the Supreme Court said we should not recount Florida because if we do, it might affect other states because it affects the national election. But that's also, in this particular case, it was absurd to begin with, but it's even way more absurd now because of two things. Number one, so Florida was stopping a recount. This would be, in a best case scenario, forcing recounts, but George has already done 3 recounts. So do you want him to do a 4th one? They did a hand recount. Do you want a foot recount? Like, there is no remedy that makes any kind of sense. Whereas in Florida in 2000, it was easy. Just don't count the votes. Just don't count them, right? But now Trump is trailing. That's much, much, much harder. And then if they make that precedent, then Hawaii and Rhode Island and California can sue and go, I now want to invalidate Texas's votes because I think they did it slightly wrong. And I didn't like the way that Alabama and Mississippi did it. So we're now invalidating those. It would be an epic nightmare. And I don't think even the hard right wingers like Alito and Clarence Thomas on the Supreme Court could go in that direction. I don't want to underestimate how crazy they are, but to get 5 justices to agree to that madness, which would cause chaos in every national election based on the flimsiest legal idea you've ever heard, that would be near miraculous. But it's still a possibility. So the Supreme Court avenue is not completely closed to Trump, but today was a very bad day for him because strike 1 on the Supreme Court.
Yeah, and I just can't wait until this is over so we don't have to talk about it anymore. But for now, we have more stories on this because the GOP is going along with Donald Trump's lies. So let's discuss that a little bit. Congressional Republicans have rejected a resolution acknowledging that Joe Biden is in fact the winner of the 2020 general election. The rejection actually came today in a private meeting after House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer offered a motion to affirm that Biden, of course, has won the election, and that it is that Congress is preparing for Biden's inauguration, right? So this is essentially to ensure that Republican lawmakers who have shied away from offering any public statements in most cases commit to the fact that Biden has won. But unfortunately, the GOP has rejected that motion. So Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and Rules Committee Chairman Roy Blunt of Missouri voted with House Republican Leader Kevin McCarthy in blocking the motion, effectively preventing the inaugural committee from publicly accepting that the upcoming inauguration will be for Biden. Hoyer was outraged by what happened today, and here's his statement. He said, the extent to which Republicans are refusing to accept the outcome of the election and recognize Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as our next president and vice president is astounding. Their continued deference to President Trump's post-election temper tantrums threatens our democracy and undermines faith in our system of elections. He continues to say Republicans are refusing even to allow Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies to say that President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Harris will be inaugurated on January 20th, even when there's no serious dispute over the fact. And if you're wondering what the excuse is for Republican lawmakers, Senator Roy Blunt did offer this statement saying, quote, it's not the job of the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies to get ahead of the electoral process and decide who we are inaugurating. But as we know from the dozens, nearly 40 court cases or court challenges that the Trump campaign has brought forward, this election was won by Joe Biden. Federal judges, including federal judges who were appointed by Donald Trump and confirmed by our Senate, have completely rejected these lawsuits and these arguments because the Trump campaign has failed to provide any evidence for widespread voter fraud. So the fact that these Republicans are still going on with this ridiculous denial of the election results, it just shows you how unbelievably afraid they are of Donald Trump and the political consequences that might come along with telling the American people the truth about the outcome of the election.
Yeah, so look, I was yelling and screaming about this more earlier. I feel a little bit better about the fact that the media is now covering it better because I was really worried that they were going to say later, oh no, the Republicans never agreed with Donald Trump. Trump was an outlier and the beloved, wonderful corporate Republicans are totally fine and they didn't go along with this coup attempt or anything along those lines. But the Washington Post did a great story on it that then got a lot of coverage that actually showed you the truth, which is what I was asking for. For God's sake, will you just ask them who's on Trump's side and who acknowledges reality? And so they did. And it turns out 88% of Republicans in Congress say, no, I don't think that Joe Biden necessarily won. No, I won't agree that Biden has won. 88% of them. So they're on board. They're on board for this madness. And then this is another story that proves definitively that is the leadership for the Republicans in the House and the Senate saying, nope, I don't see a Biden win. I don't hear a Biden win. And I certainly won't speak a Biden win. Look, so it's now much clearer that it is the entire Republican Party that is complicit in this attempt to do a political coup. They're undemocratic and they are un-American. And so, look, of course, the mainstream media is not going to go as far as I am and call them un-American, but it's a fact. If you are trying to overturn a democratic election and you say, I don't care, I just want to steal it. And it's super obvious that Joe Biden has won, and you presented zero evidence in 48 cases, including one that reached the Supreme Court today and was swatted away as being completely insignificant. Well, then you're saying, yeah, I don't care what reality is. I just want to steal, coup. And that's what they are. They're cuckoos. And so now the whole country knows that, yes, well, unfortunately, not the whole country. I wish the whole country would know that, but at least the media is being clearer about it. So I have some comfort in that. And by the way, speaking of the media, real quick, the case that went to the Supreme Court today. So they thought, Alito and Amy Coney Barrett, and they're going to make this happen. And when the Supreme Court rejected this case that was brought by a Trump ally in Pennsylvania, now Lou Dobbs is on the air saying the Supreme Court, that is 6-3, massively right wing, and everyone knows that. He's like, they're cowards, and this decision was awful. So there's no one who's conservative enough. There's no evidence that is sufficient enough for the Lou Dobbs, Donald Trump, Rudy Giuliani, unfortunately, all of MAGA, for them to get to accept reality. But most importantly, now Republicans in Congress saying, yes, we too are definitely crazy and we do not accept reality. And if we could, we would love to do a political coup and steal this election.
And I have to mention one person by name who was quoted in a CNN article regarding whether or not Donald Trump should concede. And that person is Representative Jim Jordan, who said, no way. He said, no way, in terms of Trump conceding. So he's very much egging.
Because now a lot of Republicans claim they're waiting till December 14th, that's next Monday, when the Electoral College officially certifies the winner. Then it's not the media saying it, it's not every single court saying it, it's not the Supreme Court saying it, it's official. This is how elections are decided in the United States of America. This is our system, right? I don't like the Electoral College. I think we should reform it or get rid of it, but that's what the Electoral College is. They vote next Monday. When it becomes official, some Republicans claim, well, maybe we'll acknowledge reality after our coup failed, right? But guys like Jim Jordan that quote was in response to, how about past December 14th, after the Electoral College certifies the election? He's like, no way, we're never going to recognize it. So
great.
Yeah, they're going to take their ball and go home. They're going to divide this country forever. They're going to call it Biden illegitimate forever and ever and ever, based on no evidence at all. And they're going to make their side angrier and angrier and angrier. And because this helps them retain power in their seats in elections that are coming up. Does it help to destroy the country? Yes, but they don't care. All they care about is their own personal power. You think Jim Jordan doesn't know that Donald Trump is lying? You think he can't read court decisions? You think he doesn't know that they lost 48 times and they just lost the Supreme Court? He knows. He's lying to you on purpose. Well, number one, because he thinks Republican voters are idiots, so we can tell them anything and they'll believe it. They'll believe that 49 losses in a row is actually winning. They're that stupid. Yes, that's what Jim Jordan thinks of you. Don't prove him right. And secondly, they think, I don't care about this country or our democracy. So if we can end it to retain our power, we'll do it in a second. That's who Jim Jordan, that un-American bastard, is.
We got to take a break. When we come back, the GOP in Arizona is encouraging violence. We'll give you the details on that and more when we return.
We need to talk about a relatively new show called the Republic, or UNFTR. As a Young Turks fan, you already know that the government, the media, and corporations are constantly peddling lies that serve the interests of the rich and powerful. But now there's a podcast dedicated to unraveling those lies, debunking the conventional wisdom. In each episode of On the Republic, or UNFTR, the host delves into a different historical episode or topic that's generally misunderstood or purposely obfuscated by the so-called powers that be, featuring in-depth research, razor-sharp commentary, and just the right amount of vulgarity. The UNFTR podcast takes a sledgehammer to what you thought you knew about some of the nation's most sacred historical cows. But don't just take my word for it. The New York Times described UNFTR as consistently compelling and educational, aiming to challenge conventional wisdom and upend the historical narratives that were taught in school. For as the great philosopher Yoda once put it, "You must unlearn what you have learned." And that's true whether you're in Jedi training or you're uprooting and exposing all the propaganda and disinformation you've been fed over the course of your lifetime. So search for UNFTR in your podcast app today and get ready to get informed, angered, and entertained all at the same time.
All right, back on the Young Turks during the break, at least. I first of all, I want to thank and acknowledge tyt.com/go donors today, because that's such an important day for us. So first, Chris from Florida gave $127 and gets a press on T-shirt. Love you for it. It's got that great TYT mic on it. Magdalena from Illinois gave $10. You're awesome. Brenda from Washington, $100. Maria from North Carolina, $15, and Benjamin from Pennsylvania, $15. You guys are amazing. Let me go to your comments, which as usual are great. So Gabby Marita writes in, but I thought Republicans were against activist judges, or are they okay with them as long as they're misinterpreting the law in their favor? Well, actually, it's funny you say that, Gabby, because in one of the cases where it was one of the harshest decisions of this entire saga, it was a Trump appointed judge. And he said, I'm not an activist judge. And this would be judicial activism to overturn the will of the people. But nope, Trump appointed judges are now cowards and awful, according to Lou Dobbs. And it goes on and on, you know. If Nixon and Reagan all came back and said Trump didn't win, they'd be like, they hate the Republican Party, they're the worst, etc. So Johnny I's 100% world bubble writes in, states' rights when it comes to Second Amendment, Texas rights when it comes to other states Texas doesn't like. Exactly, what happened to states' rights, Texas? You claim states' rights a billion times. Now you're like, no, Pennsylvania, Georgia, etc. You don't have any rights. Texas gets to rule over all of you. It's insane. So Saboiri writes in, and this is so true. Republicans prove every day how willing they are to lie, cheat, steal, and even make themselves traitors to the country. It absolutely sickens me that anytime someone says that Democrats or anyone should work with them, as if that were even possible. And any Democrat who says that they plan on working with the Republicans is either asleep at the wheel, an idiot, or laying right there in bed with them. Unfortunately, that's true. And unfortunately, the prime culprit of that is Joe Biden. So you pick your choice, but it is not a rational decision to say, oh yeah, Mitch McConnell doesn't recognize that I even won the election. I'd love to work with him. Hey, Mitch, what can I do for you? In a story you're gonna see later in the show, Now Trump has outflanked idiots like Schumer and Durbin on the left. On the left, they're the worst at politics. Edmund, these are folks who just joined by hitting the join button below on YouTube. Edmund Duggar, Big T, the Pyro Guy, Miriam Davidson, Steve Cobb, and Charles James Jr. upgraded to essentials. We love you guys. We're coming right back now. All right, back on the Young Turks. So many more stories. Anna, hit us.
As we know, Joe Biden has won the state of Arizona in the general election, and the Arizona GOP is having a difficult time coping with that. Maybe they need a little dose of copium, but looks like they're also advocating for violence as a result of Biden winning that state. So this all went down on social media where some user on Twitter had tweeted this: "I'm willing to give my life for this fight," meaning this person's willing to give his life to overturn the election results. And so the Arizona Republican Party quote tweeted that and said, "He is, are you?" So what does that even mean? He is, are you? Like, you want people to go to war and possibly die to overturn the election results and undermine our democratic process? Okay. They also bizarrely tweeted a Rambo movie quote, because of course they did. Here's what that looked like. "This is what we do, who we are, live for nothing or die for something." They later deleted that tweet for obvious reasons. Yeah. There's more to the story, but Cenk, why don't you jump in?
Yeah, the obvious reason is they're threatening to murder people. So that's Rambo pointing an arrow at some guy's head, and they're saying, "Why don't you die for something? Why don't you die for something?" Okay, by the way, no, they don't even know what that thing is. We lost 49 court cases, including the Supreme Court today. But why don't you go ahead and die because we'd like to be dictators? So this is super dangerous. I'd like to remind everybody, it's not like there hasn't been political shootings in the state of Arizona. Gabby Giffords, a Democratic congresswoman, was shot in the head in Arizona. Now the Arizona Republican Party is like, "Hey, why don't you guys commit more violence for no reason at all so we can steal this election?" And then this whole "Stop the Steal" hashtag, I know they're all lunatics, but it still bothers me. No, you idiots, you're the ones trying to steal an election that is clearly won by Joe Biden. And every single court case, you have not presented one piece of evidence. You're the one stealing the election, and now you'd like to murder people for it. You know what that makes you? A fascist. I watched that debate with Loeffler and Warnock in Georgia, and she kept calling radical liberal, Marxist, radical Marxist, right? Why don't you call them what they are? These Republicans are radical fascists. Fascists say, "Let's go kill people so that we can win an election." That's exactly what fascists do.
Now, Meghan McCain, who of course is from the state of Arizona, jumped in on this conversation and did criticize the Arizona GOP for basically encouraging violence in their tweets. She wrote, "Die for Trump. Is the official GOP, I'm sorry, die for Trump is the official Arizona GOP Twitter message. Really, guys, really?" And then she later offered to take over their social media in response to the deleted Rambo tweet. She wrote, "If you guys need me to jump in and take over your Twitter account for the day so you're not nationally trending for embarrassing reasons, I'm here." She's on the right side on this debate, so I'm just gonna leave that alone. I'm gonna be the good guy and leave that alone.
No, bless her heart. Look, all we care about is getting to the right conclusion. I'll do a deal with Louis Gohmert if it's the right deal. I don't care about personalities. All I care about is getting to the right conclusion. So if Meghan McCain's against violence in Arizona by Republicans, great. Thank you. Welcome. Now, I'm going to say one more thing here. If we think about it, it's actually not that surprising that Republicans would ask you to die for Trump. That's kind of what they've been doing with COVID. So they're saying, yeah, don't wear the mask because Trump doesn't think he looks good in a mask. And he wanted the stock market back open so he could make more money and his friends and donors could make more money. So why don't you die for Trump's rich friends? So since they've been asking them that, and they have been dying, over 280,000 Americans have died because of Donald Trump's incompetence. Well, is it that much of a stretch to say, hey, why don't you take some people out on your way to dying for Trump? It's become an official death cult. This is what Jonestown looks like. The only thing left now is Kool-Aid. I mean, actually, not even. You could argue that when Trump said, why don't you guys inject yourself with bleach to cure coronavirus, that was his version of Kool-Aid. So, but is he going to do, I would not, I know this sounds ridiculous, but some sort of Trump miracle cure. Remember, that's what all the right wing does. You watch the 700 Club, Pat Robertson, Alex Jones, you name it, they all have miracle shakes. So Trump's COVID miracle shake after he is out of office, and then you take it and then you wind up dying because it doesn't work. Jonestown on a mass scale, wait for it.
Well, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about how the defense spending bill is in jeopardy because Donald Trump is a child, and I kind of love this story. So we talked about this a little bit last week, but there are updates. So Donald Trump has essentially started his day by threatening to veto the National Defense Authorization Act, of course, which is the military funding bill, something that Congress has dutifully approved year after year for 59 years straight. Now, Trump is super salty toward tech companies, particularly Facebook and Twitter, for labeling his tweets alleging voter fraud and all these other, nonsensical arguments that have no basis in reality. And so he wants to retaliate against them by repealing something known as Section 230. Section 230 protects tech companies from being held liable if someone on their platform posts or does anything illegal, right? And so Trump wants to repeal that protection for the companies, and in order to basically use the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, as leverage, he's saying he'll veto it unless there's language in the bill repealing Section 230. So here's what he tweeted this morning. I hope House Republicans will vote against the very weak National Defense Authorization Act, which I will veto, must include a termination of Section 230 for national security purposes. Wrong. It has nothing to do with national security. It has everything to do with the fact that he hates being fact-checked, which preserve our national monuments and allow for 5G and troop reductions in foreign lands. He does not want to rename any of the military bases that have been named after Confederate soldiers because he's a racist. We all know that. But the heart of this story is that he just really wants to retaliate against Facebook and Twitter. Now, both chambers are expected to easily pass the NDAA funding bill. In fact, lawmakers are even holding out hope that eventually Trump will just give up and he will not veto the bill. However, they do have enough votes to override the veto. And the question is, are Republican lawmakers who have been incredibly loyal to Donald Trump on most issues willing to override the veto? And well, here's Senator Bill Cassidy, a Republican, speaking to Chris Wallace about this very issue. Here's what he had to say.
If the president, and he has said he's going to veto it, if he does, will you vote to override that veto?
We need to pay our troops. We need defense. And so my inclination would be to always vote for the troops and to vote for our national security, but to look for another vehicle to address the 230, the Section 230 issues that are so important to the president.
Listen, the only people that Republican lawmakers are more fearful of than Donald Trump is their donors. They're not going to upset the defense contractors who are funding their campaigns. They're not going to vote or act in any way that goes against the best interests and the profit motives of our weapons manufacturers. So if Donald Trump is going to threaten to veto, Republicans, you best believe, are going to do what's necessary to override that veto. There's no question about it whatsoever. And he's not the only one. Representative Adam Kinzinger, who's a Republican from Illinois, has also explicitly said that he will vote to override, saying in a tweet responding to Trump's veto threat that it's really not about you. But there are some Republicans who are unwilling to vote to override the veto. I'll give you those names in just a minute, but Cenk, why don't you jump in?
Yeah, I'm actually slightly less confident than you are that they're going to do this. I still think there's a small percentage chance that Trump bullies his way into one last victory here. So let me explain how that would work. So the Republicans are saying, oh no, we definitely need this. Defense. Oh, we got to make sure all of our defense contractors are paid off. They gave us a lot of bribes. I mean, campaign contributions, we're almost going to lose a war to Nicaragua. We need way more defense spending, right? So that's their usual stuff. And the Democrats' usual stuff is like, oh my God, I wish there was something we could do. There's nothing we could do. We're going to give them $740 billion. Let me be clear, by the way, I would vote no, hard no way. This defense budget is way too large. It's insane. It robs our children of their future to pay off defense contractors. Every progressive should vote no. They should vote no until they get it to a.
At TYT, we frequently talk about all the ways that big tech companies are taking control of our online lives, constantly monitoring us and storing and selling our data. But that doesn't mean we have to let them. It's possible to stay anonymous online and hide your data from the prying eyes of big tech. And one of the best ways is with ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN hides your IP address, making your activity more difficult to trace and sell to advertisers. ExpressVPN also encrypts 100% of your network data to protect you from eavesdroppers and cyber criminals. And it's also easy to install. A single mouse click protects all your devices. But listen, guys, this is important. ExpressVPN is rated #1 by CNET and Wired magazine. So take back control of your life online and secure your data with a top VPN solution available, ExpressVPN. And if you go to expressvpn.com/TYT, you can get 3 extra months for free with this exclusive link just for TYT fans. That's expressvpn.com/TYT. Check it out today.
Reasonable number and reallocate that money. You want to defund the police? Let's defund the military so that we can actually feed our kids, okay, and get healthcare for everybody. But Republicans, of course, don't want to do that. They love the bribes, etc. But they're hedging a little bit, saying, I mean, look, we're going to pass it in overwhelming numbers so that we hope that Donald Trump, of course, will not veto. Then they say, okay, well, what if he does veto? They're like, yeah, but you would have to see at that point. But I mean, we're going to try to pass it in big numbers. Oh, you cowards. So there is some chance that if Trump says, no, I'm vetoing it, they're like, oh, I don't want to go against Trump. All my voters are lunatics. They'll vote me out. Okay, so if the Republicans fold, what do you think is going to happen to the Democrats? Democrats will fold instantly. You've never seen the. I mean, that's not even a question. If the Republicans change their mind, that's it. Section 230's gone, because the Democrats will be like, but we had to pass the defense bill, the bloated defense bill that is so gigantic and it's a monstrosity and it's killing this country. We had to pass it to help Mitch McConnell, so we killed Section 230. The internet no longer exists. So yeah, I mean, that's on the table. What's that, Anna?
Yeah, no, you bring up a good point. I mean, would they be willing to do it? But remember, these tech companies are also pretty powerful and also have caught on to the fact that political corruption works in their favor. So I'm sorry, my dog is barking because whoever delivered a package right now thought it would be a great idea to knock on the door as if it matters. Anyway, driving me crazy. So anyway, I lost my train of thought. I apologize. Go ahead, Cenk. Okay, but I thought you made a good point.
Yeah. All right, look, one last thing on this. So now I lost my train of thought. All right. Okay, let's take a break, guys. So anyway, I remember now. Well, one last thing, guys. Why I say something like, oh, the internet will die is Section 230 protects all tech companies from liability for crazy things that people say on their platforms. Now, you might think, oh, good, I don't want people to say crazy things. No, that means they'll take away all comments because they don't want, otherwise they'll be bankrupted by lawsuits instantly, okay? So there goes engagement. There goes listening to any real Americans on any platform. All your comments will be wiped out and they'll basically rip the heart out of the internet. By the way, the only good silver lining here is the first person banned under if Section 230 is taken away would be Donald Trump. Because now I'm not joking, by the way, that's 100% fact.
No more Trump and no more comments. Oh no, please don't do that. That would be terrible.
I hear you, Anna, but no, man, that's a disaster for the internet. But look, so why would Trump be taken away? Because what is the liability? If you defame people, if you lie, you spread misinformation, there's a ton of liability that comes with that. And who lies the most on the internet? Donald Trump. And he has the biggest account that spreads the most disinformation. Gone. He'd be gone on minute one if they took away Section 230. And by the way, all of MAGA, you idiots, all of your comments would be banned. You would be voiceless. You would have no voice at all. And then you turn around and be like, oh, they're banning our speech. What happened to free speech? You morons, you asked to have your speech banned. It is literally the thing that you would hate the most. But since Trump is the biggest idiot in the country, I don't know that I could find someone dumber than Trump in the country. He's like, oh yeah, take away Section 230, so I won't be able to post online. He doesn't even know. He's so stupid. And if you say, oh, Jake, I believe Trump, or no matter what he says, look it up. Just look it up. Oh no, I know every website's lying. Every piece of information is false. The only person who's right is your cult leader. Okay, have your voice banned. See how you like it.
All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, absolute disaster when it comes to Trump's border wall. Whistleblowers are involved. You don't want to miss the details on this story. Come right back.
All right, let me read some of your comments. Let's go to Twitch first. There's lots of great comments throughout. One crew signed up for 7 months of membership and wrote in, I only became engaged in politics again about 6 years ago because of TYT and the integrity of your news coverage. I know it's true information without corporate loyalty motives. Thank you for being such a strong voice as well as being true to your values. Well, One Crew, we love you for saying that, but we also love you for making the Young Turks possible. If people like you aren't members, there is no Young Turks. So you are the Young Turks. So you've got Metal Moss, that's a new subscriber on Twitch, RJ Goodness, Simmer Sauce, Verity NS also did 7 months, wrote in 2 strong. Porcan 2020 also wrote in and did 4 months of membership. TYT makes me happy. Love the passion and the fire from the Dragon Squad. You keep me sane during these insane times. We appreciate it. Again, if you have Amazon Prime, it's free for you on Twitch to become a member for us. Even if you're a member anywhere else, it's extra revenue for us, helps the show a lot, and it's free to you. And you got to, I know it's a manual resubscribe every month, but it really is easy, and it costs you absolutely nothing other than 5 seconds of clicking, right? So thank you so much. Wild Devil Dragon wrote in, Cenk, further info on my meatball sub, which I ate yesterday. It was delicious. Okay, I love the Twitch audience. Joshua Hunter on YouTube Super Chat says, if your 39,000 or so donors all donated $10 right now, you'd get to 2 million. I'll start it with my $10. Thank you, Joshua. I appreciate it. tyt.com/go. Last that I saw there was 1687. Can we see 688? So close, and really appreciate you guys keeping it going. Speaking of which, there it is. Yes, 1688 would be great before the next break. John Person wrote in, count me in for $1,000, Cenk. We all appreciate your hard work so much. John, we appreciate you. And then there was a note in there for me. They're like, you want to double check if John actually gave $1,000? It is the internet, right? And you know what? Remember, I look at all your names every day for people who contribute at tyt.com/go, and I try to visualize the towns that you're in, the different countries you're in, and why you watch and why you care and why you want our voice to be stronger and why you want us to fight for you. I'd already seen John's name. So John, you're amazing. Thank you for doing that all the way from Colorado. Okay, so Cray Cray Souffle in the member section says, exactly, Cenk. Trump is too stupid to realize that if Section 230 is axed, he'll be the first person in line to be deleted from every social media platform immediately. And by the way, on YouTube, Maura, Pat Ford, Sabrina, Carmel D45 101, Marco Weber all just became members by hitting that join button. We'll see you in a sec. All right, back on Young Turks, Cenk and Anna with you guys. Anna, what's next?
Well, a federal judge has unsealed files indicating that two whistleblowers have accused contractors who are tasked with building Donald Trump's border wall of illegally smuggling and employing armed Mexican security teams to guard these construction sites. They allege that these third parties that have been contracted by the federal government are also inflating the costs of the construction. So us taxpayers end up footing the bill and they end up pocketing the money. Now, again, I want to emphasize that these are whistleblower complaints. They're whistleblower complaints that the Department of Justice has refused to investigate, which is why last week a federal judge decided to unseal these documents, allowing for the public to read what the accusations are. So let me share more of these accusations with you because while Donald Trump claimed he was going to build this border wall and have Mexico pay for it, the fact of the matter is not only are US taxpayers paying for it at an inflated cost, but we're employing Mexican workers to help guard the construction sites. Now, the two employees who were both contracted to provide security at the sites accused the company Sullivan Land Services Co., or SLS, as well as a subcontractor, Ultimate Concrete of El Paso, of hiring workers who were not vetted by the United States government, overcharging for construction costs and making false statements about those actions. So the whistleblowers said that the subcontractor in this story, Ultimate Concrete, went so far as to build a dirt road to expedite illegal border crossings to sites in San Diego. They're doing illegal border crossings, guys. Let's get off of the graphic for it. Trump's border wall is encouraging. It's encouraging illegal border crossings. They built a dirt road for illegal border crossings. Do you understand that, MAGA guys? Do you understand that? Let me give you more. And they haven't been vetted, which is incredible. So, okay, fine, we can bring the graphic back up. An unnamed supervisor at the Army Corps of Engineers approved the operation. SLS, a primary builder of Trump's wall, has been awarded contracts worth more than $1.4 billion for work on multiple parts of the border. With those funds, the company is said to have allowed its subcontractor, Ultimate Concrete, to hire armed Mexicans and facilitate illegal border crossings. So that's what the story is. There's more, but it's incredible.
So if you had said to MAGA, don't worry, Trump's got your back. He's gonna bring armed Mexicans through illegal roads into the country so that they can build a wall that doesn't work and has been breached 320 times already.
He's not exaggerating, by the way.
Yeah, that's
not hyperbole.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I was gonna end this with
advocating for an open border, folks. They want these open border Republicans. What are we gonna do with these open border Republicans? Go ahead, Cenk.
Yeah.
People want to know.
We won't have a border. We won't have a country. We won't have a country. We're paying armed Mexicans to come into the country. And remember, the very first thing that Donald Trump said is, the Mexicans are criminals and we have to stop them from coming into the country. I mean, it doesn't get any more ironic than this. But to finish my thought, I was gonna say, if you told the MAGA guys that, would they have supported him in the first place? The answer is probably yes, because they don't care about facts. He could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue. He could bring armed Mexicans in. He could tell you to inject bleach into your system to cure coronavirus. He's done every insane thing in the world, every counterproductive thing in the world. Right now, he's fighting to kill Section 230, which would ban all of MAGA from the entire internet. And they're like, yes, I love it. I want myself to be banned. I don't want free speech. Armed Mexicans. Wait, do I love that? I don't know. You tell me, brother, because that's what you voted for.
It's amazing. So I wanted to also provide some more detail into how these third parties are overcharging the US government for the alleged work they're doing at the border. And as Cenk mentioned, the so-called impenetrable wall has been penetrated quite a bit. So one of the whistleblowers was told by an employee that a member of the company's leadership, identified in the complaint as UC president, gee, I wonder which company they're talking to, was hiding the full extent of his profits on the border wall project, in part by submitting false claims for diesel fuel, according to the complaint. If they were using a forklift, here's a specific example provided by the whistleblower. If they were using a forklift, they would use it only sporadically throughout the day, but charge the government for fuel in sum and substance as if it were running all the time, the complaint said. So they're doing everything they can to inflate the costs and probably, allegedly, pocket the rest of the money. There were also allegations that there was a shootout at the border involving some of these armed Mexican guards who had not been vetted and Mexican citizens. And so that's a little bit of an issue, clearly. So that's being investigated. But to be clear, the Department of Justice has refused to investigate these whistleblower claims. Also, analysis of the wall shows that it is, in fact, highly penetrable, even though Trump has referred to it as impenetrable. Trump's border wall has been repeatedly breached by migrants, requiring repairs that the whistleblowers say were completed by workers who were not authorized by the government to be on the job. Between October of 2019 and March of 2020, the concrete bollards of the wall were breached more than 320 times in the Border Patrol sectors of San Diego, Tucson, El Centro, California, and Yuma, Arizona. And that's according to the documents filed by the whistleblowers. It's amazing.
Okay, it's really hard for this story to get any better. Trump has been penetrated many times, and
big dumps. They're taking big dumps.
These are massive dumps. Been penetrated 320 times, and not only did they bring the armed Mexicans in, which I got their security. I actually don't have any problem, but I do have a problem with it. You should hire American workers to do that.
Yes,
and that's what got them in trouble in the first place. But it's not like they're I'm worried they're bringing in any Mexican they bring in is oh my God, they're armed Mexicans. Who cares, right? So, but if you're MAGA, that's the thing you care most about. Oh my God, brown people with weapons, right? And the last layer of the irony is, he said Mexico would pay for the wall. It turns out we're paying Mexicans for the wall. Oops.
Yeah, it's just
it doesn't get any better than that. I mean, it's a full face plant, and MAGA's here for it. They're like, oh yeah, we built a Swiss cheese wall, and we paid the Mexicans for it, and now they're inside the country with illegal roads built so they can get in here quicker and easier. Yeah, that's what I signed up for, right?
Yeah, it's incredible. And you're right, Cenk. To clarify, I mean, this whole border wall nonsense shouldn't have happened to begin with. But everything that border wall was supposed to represent ended up representing the opposite of what Republican voters wanted, right? It did not create more jobs for Americans. It did not make the border safer. Mexico clearly didn't pay for the border wall. In fact, taxpayer money went to Mexican employees in order to guard the border wall. Those people weren't vetted. Just because they're Mexican and we're in favor of fair immigration doesn't mean that, they're all good. People should be vetted across the board, whether you're a Mexican worker or an American worker. So this story is just an absolute disaster for the Trump administration, which is probably why the Justice Department doesn't want to investigate it. All right, one final story for you, and it's worth giving you an update on where the stimulus negotiations are. It's amazing. So the White House is now urging congressional Republicans to send $600 stimulus checks to Americans as part of the coronavirus relief package. Now, the negotiations are still ongoing. As we had shared with you earlier, moderate senators got together and came up with a measly $908 billion stimulus package. And I say measly because we still don't know if it offers protections for Americans from getting evicted. It did not offer direct checks to Americans. And the unemployment package that was part of it is watered down to only $300 a week as opposed to the original $600 a week. It also provides liability. It also clears corporations of liability if their employees get sick or die on the job as a result of the pandemic. Now, shockingly, Trump and the White House jumped in on these negotiations, and Trump has privately indicated a willingness to send another round of stimulus checks of as much as $2,000, according to one person in direct communication with the president. But the truth is, Mitch McConnell is not going to sign on to that. Mitch McConnell will go against Donald Trump's best wishes in order to scrap that. So I guess the number is now down to a $600 direct check, but it's unclear if that's going to happen. Why would Trump want to do this, especially since he's already lost the election? Because he loves positive PR and he loves the idea of being able to sign his name on yet another stimulus check. An August analysis by the Urban Institute, which is a centrist think tank, found these stimulus checks would keep 6.3 million people out of poverty. I mean, a one-time check of $1,200 could help. I think that number might be a little bit inflated because it's just not enough. Americans are facing so much in terms of financial hardship. I think they're going to need a little more and a more robust stimulus bill in order to prevent poverty. But anyway, Senators Josh Hawley, who is a Republican, and Bernie Sanders have been pushing for these checks to be included in the final package, with Sanders going as far as saying he'll actually vote against the relief legislation unless they are approved.
Yeah. So congrats, Senate Democrats. You geniuses just got outflanked on the left by Donald Trump. Just when you thought corporate Democrats couldn't be dumber. So the two candidates there's 2 out of the 3 candidates most likely to win the Republican nomination in 2024 are Josh Hawley and Donald Trump. And they're now on the record for giving stimulus checks directly to Americans. Whereas every Democrat in the Senate, except Bernie Sanders, is on the record for being against direct stimulus checks for Americans. Painfully stupid, painfully. So look, we're a unique show. So when we first started, there was literally nothing like us. Now, luckily, there's more progressives online. But in terms of daily show, like if you go to cable news, you think anybody's going to call corporate Democrats stupid? Even though but forget calling them stupid. will they even point out, hey, why are you guys agreeing with Mitch McConnell, who today said he doesn't even think Joe Biden is president? And why are you letting Josh Hawley and Donald Trump pick up the populist mantle of being directly helpful to Americans? And now the Democrats have put themselves in a position where they agree with the rest of the Republicans that we should not help the average American. How could anyone be that bad at politics? And yet Dick Durbin today talking about like, no, but I know we'd like to, Chuck Schumer said, well, if the president wants it, I mean, I guess that was our original position. I don't know, right? So now it looks like you're conceding to in helping the American people. You are the worst, except for Dick Durbin. Dick Durbin, your number two guy, is actually even worse at politics than you are, Schumer. So Durbin comes out and goes, well, if we had to add the $300 billion on top that this would cost, well, that would get past the Republicans' limit of $1 trillion, so we can't do that. Dick, I don't know if you know this, but you can go past the Republicans' limit because you're not a Republican. You could ask for more in your negotiation. I have to spell it out for him because everyone else in the media business is in the ass kissing business. So they would never tell you what an idiot Dick Durbin is. They would every article repeats, well, Durbin says they can't go past the limit of $1 trillion set by the Republicans. What? Wait, who cares what the limit? That's not the law. Who cares what the Republicans say? And besides which, their leader just said go past the limit. How dumb do you have to be? Like, oh, I don't know. Mitch McConnell is telling me I can't do what Trump said and actually help America. Oh my God. And by the way, guys, if you're saying, hey, wait, are you saying that Donald Trump is trying to help Americans in this case? Yes. Yes, that giving $600 check, it should be $1,200. That's the progressive position, but $600 is better than the current Democratic leadership position. See, we're honest, we're fair. If Trump did that all along, we would have said all along that he was good. And so why is he doing it, Anna? One, he's thinking of running in 2024, and he wants to send out more checks with his name on it. It's not complicated politics. Josh Hawley said, I don't understand why people aren't doing it. This is not hard. People are suffering. We help them with their suffering. They like us more. Okay, it's not at all complicated. And what have Republicans said our whole lives, Anna? They say, oh, Democrats just want to give out other people's money, free money to people. So now it was always projection, right? Because they give away all of our money to giant corporations and rich people all the time, right? But now when it comes to helping average Americans, of course, the overwhelming majority of the Republican Party is like, hell no, I don't want to do that. But Trump and Hawley are like, especially Trump, he's like, give away other people's money, not my money. Other people's money for my credit? He's like, where do I sign? Of course.
Yeah, we need to get all of these people out of Congress. They suck. But we'll have more discussions about that in the next hour of the show, where we will switch gears a little bit and give you an update on the vaccine. When will average Americans have access to it? Well, there's some bad news in that regard. And we are going to go to a 4-minute actual ad break, between the hours. So stick around. We'll be back in about 4 minutes to share that story and more with you. See you soon.
Thanks for listening to the full episode of the Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur, and I'll see you soon.